What was I talking about?
Relationship dynamics.
Yeah. It seems to me almost, I wouldn't say obvious, but natural that that type of dynamic would evolve. Not because like one should be agreeable and one should be disagreeable. Not because of that, but from my limited experience and from observing my parents and how they act, it seems like they're not looking for someone else that's like them, but not someone that's all too different from them, because they're similar in a lot of ways. Like their values are pretty aligned. Like they agree on most stuff, but when it comes to like their like their personality, it seems like they fulfill each other's what should we call it?
The vacuum one leaves, the other fills.
Kind of, yes.
Although that is kind of interesting. I wouldn't put too much credit to MBTI, which is the 16 personalities, Myers-Briggs, but there is one interesting thing in that how they think of the perfect matches in personality types for relations, in that the ones that aren't the same, nor the opposite, the ones that are they're in the opposite direction. So
they're different.
Yeah, it's the function stack, but in the opposite directions. So if one person has introverted thinking as their dominant, that would be the fourth.
You need to explain the stacks.
Yeah, because that's the problem. I'm not too good at this, but basically it's a system of traits and ways of thinking and feeling and being. So you have, I think it's thinking axis, feeling axis, sensing, and intuition. And then each of those could be either extroverted or introverted, which in this context means pointed inwards or outwards. And then you have an order of these. So 4 of these in order, and the dominant, the secondary, tertiary. And I know they have different names than the tertiary and the fourth, but I don't remember the exact things because this isn't really what I'm... Well, this whole 16 personalities doesn't have that much credibility.
Myers-Briggs... wasn't Myers and Briggs, were they even psychologists?
No, I think they were newspapers people, or at least there was something in journalism, I think, or at least something in human relations, but not psychologists.
Some people who were just not even authors, but like journalists, were the ones trying to characterize different relationships?
Basically, from what we learned in psychology, it's basically that they just made it. We don't get really much more of an explanation than that. They just made it, and it's not really based of much. The one thing that is interesting isn't really the personalities themselves, but the stacks, because the stacks are
at least have more credibility than that. I wouldn't really trust in the stacks too much. It's a bit too close to astrology for my taste, like nerd astrology, really. But there is something to it. But that it's set in stone or that everyone fits into these neat categories, I wouldn't trust that at all.
I mean, it's just like how I wouldn't trust a janitor to give me medical advice.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. So why did they do this, and how was it popularized? Was it just because they had a newspaper?
It was popularized because it was a lot of businesses picked it up.
Yeah,
it made a lot of businesses feel like the HR department feel like they did something. They would administer these tests, and they would make groups based on the results. Which,
it doesn't. The personality types don't really tell you much.
Yeah,
like. They're too broad to give any specific about anything, really. They can give you a general sense of your general personality, but you already have that of yourself. Yeah. It doesn't really tell you anything except the things you already know. It's a lot better to take a Big 5 test, because then you can look at each individual axes, and then you can find out what does it mean to have high in agreeableness or low in agreeableness. What does that usually mean?
Yeah. Although the problem with that is that the reason a lot of people in the mainstream, they would rather use MBTI instead of Big Five is exactly because Big Five is more academic, more scientific. It isn't as interesting. Like when I take the 16 personalities test and I find, I'm ENTP-A, like, oh, I'm an assertive debater. That feels more fun to see and it's more interesting to read through than looking at, low neuroticism, high extroversion. Like that Big Five isn't as interesting, but it's more useful.
I know, and it's the same that when it compares you to other people, like Martin Luther King was this type, and Einstein was this type. No, but
but it does. It actually just goes, oh, you are like Martin Luther King.
At
you
the
are
end,
like Einstein.
Yes, actually.
At
the end, it says like, this famous person had this personality type.
You're like
you
Weird Al. Like you're like Jack Sparrow. I literally got Jack Sparrow. Even fictional characters.
But the thing about that is, it's just like the outside perspective. It's not the actual person doing that, because like how I act might be very different from what I think. Yeah. So that just sounds like such bullshit. Oh, you're like Einstein. Because your inner workings are most likely very different. Because it's just someone trying to make decisions based on Einstein. Because Einstein didn't take the Big Five.
Yeah. Well, this is not the Big Five. This is MBTI. It's really important to clear up the difference. Not that it's your fault. You're not not in psychology. But it's really important because Big Five is actually used in scientific research and is really, well, it's used in a credible way. And I would put faith in it. But MBTI is pseudoscience, nerd astrology.
It's closer to nerd astrology than pseudoscience, I guess.
Yeah. Pseudoscience has a few connotations that don't fit, but nerd astrology, that is a, Oh, sorry.
Don't. We don't have the best equipment.
I'm too assertive when I speak. I need to.
My microphone is the only one that like kind of counts for that. And that microphone.
Well, it's gone.
You pushed it out of frame, so
I can pull it back.
Well, wouldn't that
it's an extra?
Would that look bad?
No, it looks
I'm just gonna push it again.
Yeah, okay.
This is for the next episode.
Shall we reveal who the guest is, or should we keep it hidden? Yeah, okay.
No,
he knows. I've told him.
Yeah, he knows. Obviously, it's a he, by the way.
Yeah,
so
no girls yet. I'm trying to get my girlfriend to come on this, but she's scared.
I would understand
what
that.
What would we talk about, though, if she comes on?
I don't know. French people.
Yeah, she's really going to love our first episode, then.
We could talk about the state of how it is in France.
Mm.
I don't know if she's... I don't think she's too knows too much about French politics. She's not really that interested.
So what we can ask her at least is, have they burned down your house? Have they stolen your stuff?
They actually haven't. But I did get a video.
Oh yeah.
I think I showed it to you.
Yeah,
guys,
you did.
Where they were burning cars outside of her mom's apartment.
Her mom's apartment. Okay, that close. That's
literally burning. I don't know if it was fireworks or actual gunshots, but it was something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You remember like those old videos from like some other France riot? It literally looks like some video game. Like so much is happening.
Looks like a zombies game.
Yeah, it looks like a zombies game. Have you seen the one where the car just flips and everyone just flocks to it and starts throwing shit at it?
It's insane.
Yeah, it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Did I find it?
I don't know. For some reason, the world just goes to shit.
It's fucked up right now.
Yeah. Well, we were trying to not swear.
Sorry.
Too late now.
It's once.
Yeah.
How many times do we have to swear for it to not be suitable for children?
Isn't it once within the first minute? So I think we're safe.
Okay, so for some context, the way we have this set up right now, or like the YouTube side of things, whenever I upload something to the channel, I say that it's not suitable for children.
Which it isn't.
Because, but that also changes how it's treated in the algorithm. So we were thinking about, what if we don't swear? Like, and say that it is suitable for children.
But at the same time, is it the thing I was going to mention next?
It gives better reach, but it like turns down the monetary gain. Because you can't, all of the COPPA laws and stuff, you can't advertised towards children,
Mm-hmm.
which is it sucks.
Yeah. We want the...
Yeah, we want the moolah cash. Well, actually, I don't think we have any.
It'd be fun, but it's not that important.
Yeah, because then I can finally be paid back for all the money I spent on this.
Well, like the main motive of this is that we already have these discussions in school and just in general. So why not upload them and see if we can
Why
Well,
not make something out of
more
it?
people can enjoy it? Yeah, exactly. Why not make something out of it?
Because we do this anyways. We do it basically every single day at school.
If we have hours together, yeah.
Yeah.
Hours together, subjects together.
So, thank you, subjects. Yeah.
Even on break.
Yeah.
It's really not uncommon, especially if we have a long break, like 2.5 hours, to just sit there and talk for 2.5 hours about something that we would talk about here. It's the same.
So if we can do something with it, why not do so? And this is a fun venture too. It's just fun.
and I already had like a lot of this stuff, so it works out.
Although maybe we should get back on topic a bit.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, this may be interesting to some, but I don't think that is the main reason people click this.
No, probably not.
Have you heard what's happening in Sweden? I think I mentioned it to you earlier.
You didn't actually tell us.
Oh, I just mentioned it. Oh, my bad. It's taking an interesting route. So the military, I think this Sunday, I'm not exactly sure about the dates, but I think this Sunday it's gonna the military and police are gonna start working together in unison to crack down on the gangs in Sweden. Which, for contexts.
Sweden has one of the highest crime rates in the world right now. It's
In the world?
yes, actually in the
on
world.
the level
Like,
of America,
God.
I think.
No, I
even?
think it's actually
Like-
on the level of Mexico.
Oh, yeah, I was actually about to
Yeah.
ask that. And okay, Jesus.
There's been 20 murders each month
on average.
on average.
on average.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah,
So that
it's
means it can
insane.
be way more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Ah.
There's been, I think I saw like a comparison. Like, you have to go. There's no other country in Europe that is comparable to Sweden. You have to go to Mexico to find similar crime.
The
Like amount
insane
of crime
thing
per
about
capita.
that is that goes from like every day to around every other day. That's an insane number.
Yes, there are entire cities in Sweden that police just don't enter because
Actually,
they're scared of
Yeah.
getting shot.
In sociology last year we had about this is long ago, so then was better because it's worsened a lot in the last 1 year, 2 years. But
Malmö.
in Malmö there are certain regions, if I remember correctly, where the police just a no-go zone. They won't really enter. I think some emergency services enter, but I don't think the police ever enter unless they come together with emergency services. So like there's entire regions of that city, which for context, it's a really big city. Well, it's big
By
in the
European
European
standard,
standard.
By the way, the capital in Norway is like 700,000 people. It's not big.
Although the capital of Norway is also I need
okay.
to stop speaking like that.
Can you stop?
It's
fine.
my
Moving
way
the
of
table.
speaking. Anyways, the capital of Norway too has a lot of these problems. I think
Yeah.
in 2017 or 16 or 18, one of these years, the police came out that we're gonna stop
No, that was
reporting all the
2014.
14. So it's
In,
even earlier.
in 2014, the police in Norway said or came out with a public statement saying that they're not gonna report shootings and murders and especially knife stabbings to the press because people were getting
a bad image of immigrants.
Too scared
No,
or
not
something.
even that. They were getting the reasoning in the paper or in the newspaper was that people might get a bad impression of Oslo, of how safe it is in Oslo.
Oh,
Which-
Oslo. I thought you were still on about Sweden.
No,
No,
Oslo too.
that's
It's
fine. I
we
remember you
won't-
told me about this.
Yeah, there's a reason that Sweden, it's called like Swedish Conditions because it's so bad with the way they, well, let's put it this way, they handle immigration, but that doesn't mean the rest of Europe and Norway is safe too. Like we also have our fuck ups.
Yeah,
It's not safe either.
I think there's something like we're 10 years behind Sweden, maybe not even that. Like let's call it behind until we are in the same condition. Like that's the estimate, but
Like even we still have, it's quite insane. Like 16% of our population is immigrants, which, to be fair, we need that. We need immigrants to
We don't
save it.
we don't make more people.
Yeah, we don't get enough kids. We need it.
You remember when our was it last prime minister just said, "You
Please
guys,
have kids.
please have more children," but it was like a really polite and indirect way of saying it.
Yeah.
Get 3 kids, please. Pretty
Please, we need 2.1. That's what we have been shooting for. Let's shoot for 3. Or some stuff like I don't actually remember.
Norway has actually, if we don't account for immigrants, Norway has had a negative population growth.
Yeah.
God.
It's only immigrants that's saving us, which it's really important. The only problem is that in
Crime
like
rate seems to be rising.
yeah, and if you don't
they blame it
integrate
on
them properly,
Yeah, and they blame it on the lack of sports.
wait,
The lack
actually,
of
Yeah.
sports?
I don't know if you.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna send you a video about something in Sweden, and them coming out and saying locally it's because of the lack of football clubs, because they don't have anything to do in their free time.
well, to be fair, that is a decent idea.
It
But it's-
contributes to it, but I wouldn't go out and say they aren't playing football. They're going to start stabbing each other because they have nothing to do.
Like the biggest reason, well, I don't know if it's the bigger reason. The biggest reason to me, it seems like, for why suddenly this gang warfare stuff in Sweden is happening is because the leaders of the drug trade were switched out. Before it was the Yugoslavs, and they operated like the Italian mafia, trying to basically keep in the shadow and not really be visible to society.
It's the same with the Norwegian gangs in
Yeah.
Oslo. The Norwegian gangs in Oslo never killed anyone.
Yeah.
Or they very, very rarely killed anyone that was outside of another gang. There were gang wars. Like, it's called wars. There were disputes between gangs and people got killed then. But it was very, very rare that people got killed outside of that. And it was even very rare that people got killed inside or during disputes. But now there's random stabbings in Oslo relatively often.
Do you think legalizing some drugs could help that? Because the main fuel of the gang warfare in both Sweden and its rise in Norway is this drug trade. Do you think that legalizing could help that?
I don't know, because I've heard that some of the initiations into these gangs are like, just go stab a random person.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, you need to be committed to this gang, so before you're allowed to enter, just carry a knife, go on the street, and just walk by someone and stab them.
Not even committed. That's a chain of slavery, really, because you
Yes.
can never leave, I mean.
And that's why some parties in Norway are advocating for lowering the age where you can get trialed for different crimes.
Yeah.
I think FRP, what's that called in English?
Right progressives, we could say.
The Right Progressive Party is advocating for lowering the legal age for which you can get punished for crimes for like 18 to, I think it's down to 14.
Oh, that's a
All the way
big
down
jump.
to 40. That's a really big jump,
I think it's especially targeted at people doing violent things because of this. Because what's been usually shown is that they're the drug carriers, the young people that are above the age of 18. They get 16-year-olds to carry the drugs because they can't actually put them in jail.
I remember that was actually what acted as
Might be 14 years old.
I think it was the Yakuza, some type of, because the Yakuza has been around for so long, there have been like different periods of it. But I remember I think a relatively recent one is literally one of the initiations for like younger gang members can be having, because the senior ones, they commit maybe like a really bad crime, but they can be the scapegoats. And because they get lighter sentences because they're so young, not only do they basically not have to do anything to get like a high ranking position, but it just means that they can do more without having to face as much punishment.
And that's the thing that's happening in Norway as well.
God damn it. I
the
keep
thing that's
messing
happening
up
in
the
Norway as
buttons.
well. That older gang members are using younger gang members as scapegoats, either to just have them say that they committed something or to be carriers of some illegal possession.
What would be the inadvertent effects of this? If these policies of lowering the criminal
That's a good
age,
question.
what would be the effect? Because obviously it means we can more effectively punish and prevent these occurrings. But what
Would the effect just be
detriments?
that they get pushed younger?
9-year-olds carrying drugs?
I don't know.
There has to be some sort of limit to like what's useful. Because like, for example, relying with like a big like drug sale to have a fucking 9-year-old
I have 10-year-olds
run around.
carrying
Yeah,
drugs.
exactly. I don't think that's too reliable because if they just offer them some dog petting time, they might just give them
yeah.
$3 million worth of cocaine or something.
Although that could be kind of, if you raise a kid properly, I don't mean anything good,
Indoctrinate
but
them,
yeah, if you
basically.
raise them in a way that they will be supremely loyal to you, you could get the perfect
Yeah,
drug
it's a
traders.
valid thing. But have you seen how like they're so small and like their limbs have like they don't work properly? Like
Those young people.
you know, like really young people, like young kids, you can see babies how they move around like really strange. Like if you push it down enough, they bro.
Having a 5-year-old.
Do you really think a 50-year-old like gang member wouldn't drop kick a child for $5 million?
You know something interesting?
drop
that
kick?
the sense of balance isn't fully developed until like 15, 16.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. I won't go into that. We'll try to stay on topic a bit at least. But that's interesting how the development of kids is in such a way that it goes in, you could say, phases. Let's put that down. It goes in kind of phases, and these could be exploited. If you... I haven't really thought about how you could exploit these and to indoctrinate a kid.
You
but like,
definitely have thought about that. I don't believe you.
I'm
when you say
thinking
you
of it
haven't.
now, for sure. I've thought about how to manipulate
Children.
how but not
Don't
in this,
sugarcoat
not
it.
in this connection, not how you could do that.
Don't sugarcoat it. You've thought about that.
Well, if you know how kids under a certain age, if you do peekaboo with them, they can't really understand that.
They have no concept of object permanence.
Yes, and so that could be. Well, I'm not really pointing that out to say that you could exploit that specific thing, but more in the general sense that kids are stupid until they get like quite a lot older, and I would even argue that we're still kind of stupid until we're at least like 25.
Yeah, that's when the brains finish developing.
Yeah, well,
Still pretty plastic, but
yeah, and even then. There's some research that the prefrontal cortex, the frontallappene, the front, it still hasn't finished developed until they're like 33.
really?
Yeah, and it's rising. That's what I've observed. The time to develop the cortex is increasing. So like before it used to be like 29, 30, and now 33 is the average. So
That's really interesting, actually.
yeah,
I mean, that almost brings like a slight sense of like security for some, I think, though, because I think some people get really scared that they're going to be stuck doing something stupid. For example, like a job, because you develop a lot with jobs. And I know that certain people are really scared of like using this like valuable learning period and wasting it on something ridiculous like packing boxes for a pizza company.
Yeah, I want to pack boxes because then I don't have to talk to people. I cannot be an accountant.
I don't want to pack boxes because I want to talk to people.
Please give
I
me a
wanna
packing
talk to
job,
people,
boxes
yeah.
job. I need it.
Can we
You
switch
see-
jobs?
Do you pack boxes?
No, but I open them. I
in front
open
of
them.
people?
No, I open them, I put them in the discs, and I move on. And occasionally have to help customers.
Occasionally is too often.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, we have the introverted side. We have the
No, it's not
extroverted
that.
side.
I will
you-
tell them that. I will tell the customer that they're stupid.
Oh, like
You're
that.
too disagreeable,
Okay.
as you
Yes.
said. Although, how much of that do you think is bias that you've kind of built this idea of yourself as introverted?
Persona.
Yeah, because not introverted, as disagreeable. Because I have realized this for myself that I've kind of built this idea of extroversion around myself, and it has reinforced my actual traits in a feedback loop. How much do you think that is the case with you?
I don't know because I'm less disagreeable with people I know and people that I know are competent. I guess because I know I can trust them. I don't know if that's
Trust
Okay.
them or their judgment? to be at least thought through.
Yeah, I trust that they're not stupid. No, but that's actually, I'm pretty sure that's my reasoning. I'm a lot quicker to trust my dad than I'm a random person, because my dad has proved himself useful.
What about your mom, though?
No, it's the same.
Okay, so it's the same for your mother.
Or it depends what topic they're on. No, but it does depend what topic they're talking about. Because my dad works in one thing, mom works in another thing.
Define stupidity? Would it be just the lack of cognitive ability or overseeing?
I don't really know what you put into that.
No, that's what I stopped myself. So I didn't want to put just two options. Because that's a common little mistake a lot of people do, including me, that when asking a question, would you do this or this, which doesn't really leave an open space for the person to answer their own opinion. They have to choose.
Mm-hmm. I don't really know what you mean.
Okay, how?
Explain it more broadly.
How would you differ stupidity from
Incompetent?
cognitive deficiency?
What's the difference?
Because
You're speaking moon runes here. Man.
no, because smart people can still do stupid things. Yet
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they can ever be cognitively deficient. They're thinking
okay,
through.
I haven't even had any like psychology or something. Can you explain your terms? 'Cause
Cognitive
what do you
means
mean?
thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, but the thing is, I might understand what something means, but not in your specific
Okay,
context.
so are you talking about someone being stupid, and what's the difference between someone being stupid and someone doing stupid things?
That's what I'm trying to think
Why
about.
you got to use so many like complex words to
Because
make yourself
He's
seem
trying to be
smarter?
specific.
Yeah, I'm trying
Okay.
to be specific, but the problem with trying to be specific is that the listeners also have to know that particular definitions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm here. You know, I'm just a production guy.
Trying to pull us back, reel us in.
Yeah, trying to tell you guys when you guys are being silly with just thinking that we know everything. Getting off your high horse, actually. One of the first things that happened on this podcast was me calling you a narcissist.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I agree with him being a narcissist. I'm also a narcissist.
Yeah, but
Are you a narcissist though?
I wouldn't.
You're the other one out, huh?
With my traits, like even
Get off your
like
high horse,
as we
you're a
have
narcissist.
discussed, when you called me smart, I refused. Of course, it can be like an attempt to be humble, but I don't think
Humble
I'm
brag.
not. I'm not saying that like I'm some saint. I'm just saying, if you guys are the barrier for being a narcissist, I'm not a narcissist.
But we're not. We're not the average. You got to compare yourself to the average.
Yeah.
So you're high above. You're saying you're very narcissistic.
Well, that's
What do you mean? Okay. What's your definition of narcissism?
ooh. Okay. Should I? I'm gonna give the more annoying answer.
Yeah.
You know the tale of Narcissus? We read it in psychology. It's where the word comes from, which is interesting trivia.
What's his name?
Narcissus.
Narcissus.
Yeah, because C is pronounced K in Greek.
But
But
it's also though the tale of Echo.
Yeah, it's an interesting tale and trivia that's where the word comes from. So at least the main thing I want to point out is that Narcissus, he dies or dooms himself because he can't look away from his reflection in the water. And I think
Self-obsessed.
yes, I think that's the perfect definition of narcissism. Oh, sorry. Not that they are confident beyond what they should be or beyond their value, but that they are obsessed with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It is an obsession, but like with having talked to actual narcissists, the way they view social life or how their social views is what I could also argue is something that defines a narcissist. Because like the very typical one that I've heard from like I don't know many narcissists. I think I've spoken to like I know one and I've spoken to three. And they all have some variation of viewing their social life like in a vacuum, that they are on a stage and all of the others are like their heads are on foot level. They're very specific with that they are far below them, But the way some of them differed is like who is allowed to be on the stage. So one of them, they said that when they befriend someone, they view it as them pulling them, helping them to get up on the stage, which is still like, basically the way I interpreted that is that they are still viewing it as them receiving an honor by becoming their friends.
Interesting. You know, in development, early development in kids, you eventually learn that you are not the center of life. You're the center of your own life, but not of life itself. You are a part of a bigger game. Maybe, at least to your story, Meth, that narcissism...
They didn't grow out of that.
Yeah, they didn't learn to understand that.
Yeah, it seems like, because it's complicated. It's a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid for the average listener that hasn't had psychology. When kids grow up, when they're really young, before the age of 5, basically, they learn to play. And the playing circuit in your brain, basically, is developed. When you learn to play, you learn that you need to win, or you learn that there's a game at all. And you start to compete with other people in different games. That's why kids play tag, for example. But you don't play one game. You play multiple games. So if you want to win, like overall, you want to be invited back to play. Because playing once and winning, if you're not going to get invited back, is pretty damn boring.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure that's why parents say, like, it's not the point of the game, it's
having fun.
It's having fun. Because if you're a good sport, people like you. And there's, if people don't learn that other people want to win, that might be part of the circuit that they didn't develop, and that other people are also people. They're not just some means to your winning.
Yeah. So this would be the social psychology and the neuropsychology definition. But it appears you have found a more societal definition, the layman's definition.
At least, like, according to Britannica, it's pathological self-absorption. So that does kind of go with what you said. Because what I described is more of like a causation, or it's something that happens with being self-absorbed. But yeah, I didn't claim that it was the definition either.
No, but it was really smart, a really smart comment, because it fit into the
differs
wider
from like how I view social life, basically. Because I don't view myself as above anyone. I view, like, the only place I can get kind of competitive is... Why are you laughing?
Nothing. I'm just thinking about my own.
Yeah, me too.
Life.
I was just thinking, like, are you saying that I'm not... Okay, so the way I don't view anyone as, like, above me, but, like, I can get competitive, of course, because I'm just curious. But I remember describing it to you how I viewed it. It's like a crowded street, because there's just a bunch, in my world at least, there's a bunch of people, bunch of cunts. And I'm on like a small itsy bitsy platform, but it's not a platform of like being better. It's just that I'm out there. I'm not quiet. I'm an extrovert. That's the thing. Yeah. And there are, like, even though it's a small platform, there are still steps. And whoever wants to be my friend or like become friendly, they can choose to do so. And I'm not stopping them. I'm not going to influence that. If they feel like I'm a person they want to befriend, that's up to them. So it's, I said, I remember my mother's a therapist. I said, yeah, I kind of explained that as I'm like a watered down narcissist, which is like a pretty harsh way to say, because that's not what that is. I just kind of view like it's whatever, people are kind of the same. Some people have different like specializations. That's kind of how I view it. For example, with all of us in our friend group, all of us are pretty damn intelligent with like those test-based, at least. You can assume that we have a high G factor, as you guys like fancy asses.
It's not even that doesn't even matter really. It's just that our friend group is generally
Academically inclined
yes.
and debate inclined.
The point I was going to make is that
We love
for
debate.
example, like I'm interested in math, and therefore, like our view with you never like really showed your knowledge because like school, for example, never like you never chatted about it, so we didn't know about how much you knew about history. So in my head, I wasn't like you're stupid, but I was just like
I'm not good at math.
yeah, no, the thought didn't go through my head that like, oh, he's really smart. But as soon as that's something you started to like discuss, you know, like everyone around you started like going from, oh yeah, he's Philip to he's actually really smart.
He is Philip.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I like that title better,
it's people.
He's him.
You said his name, by the way.
but that's fine.
Okay.
Her name is already online.
The thing is, it's just that what the fuck was I gonna say? We use our intelligence differently. And that's kind of how I view it. I cannot, on the surface, tell if someone's smart. I gotta like find their niche and then observe that to know if they're stupid or not.
You need to see them actually be competent in something.
Yeah, exactly. Because I wouldn't say like for example, I'm interested in history, but not too much. So if the only thing you've ever seen like from me is history, me discussing history, I will not sound that smart. Probably I might know like a bit more than an average person in some topics, but you wouldn't go, oh, he's smart. Like I can like juggle around, like try to like view different viewpoints. I guess that's something you can pick up on, but you wouldn't think I'm necessarily smart. The reason some people think I'm smart is because of them having seen what I'm interested in and what I've dedicated myself to.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's because people usually need to see people be competent instead of just someone asserting themselves as I am smart.
That's also why I think is like kind of ridiculous to always focus on intelligence or IQ, because that doesn't mean you're going to be the next Jeff Bezos or whatever the hell kind of guy, Elon Musk. You got to have an idea, which is, for example, with like development. It's about having that great idea. Yeah, having like good intelligence might make you better at like weeding out what's a bad idea, what's a good idea. But if there was like a direct correlation with a good idea and intelligence, there are certain rich people we wouldn't see as rich people.
That's a bit on how we have discussed this, me and Lion, that at some point intelligence is just a factor of speed. Like in the early stages, it might be of capability, but above a certain range, people are just capable of everything. It's just a matter of speed.
Like just to blow up Eric's ego.
Stop! You do that.
I don't care.
You do that way too much.
No,
I'm pretty damn sure he's smarter than me, because he is at least
Very
when it comes to math, he's super quick. And most of the time I feel like I could figure this out if I use more time, but I have to use 3, 4, 5 times as much time.
but again, though, that's do you think
When it's new concepts.
Yeah,
by the way.
if you want to have this theory hold any water, do you think he would still be faster than you if he started in psychology and tried to learn?
No.
Because I think like something that also differentiates that from that is what he knows from before, and like how interested he is in like learning the entirety of a thing before moving on. He wants to make sure the foundation is there. He doesn't just, oh, it's like that and then move on. He wants to understand it. So I think that's also just like it changes the way of thinking. Like I might see like a tiny bit of like, because in the past we've been kind of competitive. So there's that. We'll like take what I say with a grain of salt, I guess. But like there are many times, yeah, sure. Well, if like he's not stupid, but
he's pretty damn smart.
At the same time, I think it's kind of stupid to just. It's like a good chess player. That doesn't mean you're incredibly smart. You're quick with it, yeah, but it's like your specialization in a sense. I think it's just kind of stupid to go, oh, he's really good at math, and then just say, "Oh, he's smart at everything." Da, da, da. Not that,
That
he's
is
stupid,
the definition you said.
but you shouldn't engage in a circle jerk. Is kind
That
of
is what you said, and I don't remember if it was the second episode or the first, or in layman's terms, IQ is just math ability.
Even though it's
And,
not.
No, but you are kind of suffering. He's good at math, and you're using that to back up the point of him just being smart in general, which I agree. He is smart. Don't
He is smart
get
in
me
general,
wrong.
but I was gonna make the difference between that math is his.
You did it.
Sorry, yeah. He might be really good at that because it's really easy to draw connections if that's how your brain works, because it's really logical in math. If you know the concept and you know that there's a way to extrapolate it to get to some place, because we're not developing new math, we're just learning math that already exists. He knows that, okay, this is supposed to be true. How do I get it to be true with the things I already know? But it's different in psychology, and that's why I said I doubt he would catch up in psychology, even if he liked it.
If you started at this, if you started again, would he be faster than you?
I don't think so.
No.
Because I think my brain works a little differently from his.
You think?
Well, we know it works differently, but
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Just from him, I'm pretty sure that we extrapolate, or our thinking ability is different in just the way we think. Well, especially when we talk about social problems, his brain jumps to a different, and generally in a different direction generally than mine does. But when it comes to math, his jumps in just a lot faster.
Which, to be fair, I know we critiqued Gardner's theories in last year, but when we're talking about it currently, that is kind of what he was saying, that the brain seems to be wired differently in some people than others, and that affects what they may be good at. Because if you take someone who has an innate ability to just understand something about the human experience, they might absolutely crash in math, but they would ace every single humanity with that ability. But I would still consider that genius, even though their logical ability may be deficient. And even then, logic is just not math. Math is obviously primarily a logical excursion, a logical abstract way of... excursion was the wrong word. A logical abstract way of thinking. But even if you're bad at math, I wouldn't say that your brain is bad at logical thinking in general. I think it's primarily down to interest.
Yeah, I was about to say something. A lot of things also come down to interest, which I think is like it's. I just think it's stupid to just categorize something as someone as like smart or just the best, because it's in their own field and all of that stuff. It's I don't want to pull the conversation back, but it's just, what can you say? I think it's just stupid to like idolize people for having an innate ability to do something and then forgetting that, yeah, you might also be equally strong but in another field.
I like that.
I just don't like idolizing people in that way and like inflating their egos, I guess. Because like, yeah, no, people we know, they're smart. You
that doesn't mean that I
shouldn't take that
stupid.
away from them.
No, we get that. But you categorize the way you look at people, I would say, by competence. Well, realize competence, not potential. And just this general idea of mental ability, that's in the realm of potential. It might be interesting in the scientific literature and that perspective, but in any other realm, like if it's in a social situation or if it's school, you look at competence, realized competence, not potential. And I think we may have focused too much on the potential part rather than the competence part.
But isn't that what schools do, for example? Well, but okay, not schools necessarily, but when you, after high school, for example, you are able to get into high school universities based on your scores, basically, and that's your realized potential. But that's assuming that everyone started at the same time and they had the same amount of time to work on it to realize their potential. And I'm pretty sure that the assumption that is made is that if you were able to realize more of your potential in the same amount of time than other people did, then you have a higher potential.
If I would maybe argue that there's no ceiling to potential. That
okay, I can agree with that, but that because you realize your potential quicker, it would be more useful to for the university to take you in compared to someone that doesn't realize their potential as quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. But how would they do base this idea of potential on the competency already proved? And that is fine. I would say that's fine in any situation. You can develop a sense of potential based on realized competence, but I don't think it's good or even healthy to focus too much on just pure potential, which is what something like an IQ score is, because that's just a pure number signifying potential, nothing else, only potential.
The only thing it shows is how, if you were to start something new, what is the general rate that you would increase your competence added? Pretty sure that's basically the basis of what it's supposed to describe. It's how quickly do you get better at something?
Which is interesting because that's not static. If you are stressed, your brain rewires faster. Even stuff like weed has that same effect, that it makes your brain more malleable.
And psilocybin.
Yeah, and psilocybin especially. That's a really interesting drug. But I wouldn't say that's the same, but it is kind of the same on the function, that such ability to rewire is the ability to learn. Because if you learn something and you keep that knowledge, then your brain has to have rewired in some way. And if you're stressed, you rewire better and faster. But I wouldn't say that those with high neuroticism, so high vulnerability to stress, I wouldn't say they're automatically just more intelligent because they can rewire faster. Although on that scale, you kind of destroy the rest of your body and mental health with too much malleability and just the negative factors of cholesterol. But
and on your immune system.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the time, by the way.
Yeah, 50 minutes.
Yeah,
we have a tiny bit
because
of time.
when you're stressed, we've talked about this before, that stressed people or people with high neuroticism get sick more easily. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Because, and our teacher talked about this as well, that because if you're stressed and you're in basically fight or flight mode, your body, it doesn't shut down, but it doesn't prioritize your immune system.
Yeah.
Because why would it prioritize your immune system when a circuit in your brain that's supposed to make you survive when you're running from a bear, why would it prioritize your immune system? Because that's not the imminent threat. But the problem with, for example, being either depressed or what's it called?
Anxious?
Or, having...
clinical anxiety?
Yeah, clinical anxiety. Some type of that is that you're in fight or flight almost all the time when you're not supposed to be in fight or flight. And then your immune system doesn't shut down, but it gets really weak and you get sick a lot more easily. Your heart beats faster. You don't digest food as easily. Nothing's good.
Yeah. And that is fundamental because your amygdala, the center for fight or flight, is just more sensitive. It's much more sensitive than the circumstances would suggest. Yeah. I don't know how much longer we want to drag this out.
We have some time, but it's just, do you have any last things to discuss or anything to kind of summarize or any loose ends to tie up?
I don't know. maybe.
Yeah, what is there to say? My mind just got really trapped on the whole like discussing certain people.
I have a
really.
question because I've talked with Myth on this on the mental. How would you represent your experience in the world mentally? He talked about, you know, in the street with the little ramp for himself, or for narcissist the scenes. How would you do it if you're willing to share?
Yeah, how would you describe yourself like socially? Like what's your social view, I guess?
My social view. Oh, difficult.
In the same way that we did. So how
Yeah.
would it see? Not, I haven't done it yet.
Oh,
but
you
like,
put me on the spot. This is difficult.
I
It's
did.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah,
Because I
it's-
haven't thought
it's-
about it at all.
It's a nice way to wrap up the episode, isn't it?
yeah, we're gonna end with your mental representation of yourself.
This is something I need to think about for like a week.
Well,
Then you can talk about
you
next
don't need
episode.
to come up with an answer. You can just like kind of, I guess, mentally sketch. I don't know, like
And-
brainstorm. I guess.
And if you really don't want any more time to think, I could talk about mine.
Please go ahead. I need time to think.
Okay, then I'm gonna save you. It has changed slightly since we last talked.
it has changed slightly, What
Which
happened?
is, I've gone through a lot of changes. Maybe not externally, because that's generally quite stable, my external expression. But my internal way of thinking and being has changed a lot. So
since last episode.
since last time we talked about it, which was like a few weeks ago.
What happened? You know, like one of the quickest way to like change the way you think and act is trauma. What happened, man? what happened to you?
New friends, new social environments, new ideas, new conceptions, new theories, a lot of new stuff. And new stuff brings chaos, which brings, change. But so how it was before, it was not like it was a single stage and I was pulling people up, but more that the entire world was a stage. Everything was a stage. Everyone were actors. Everyone were players. Everyone had their masks.
Like in the Truman Show?
Kind of.
Truman Show.
Although I was a part of it. I was an actor, a part of it. I had my masks. But I was also... It was a very heavy focus on the mask thing, that we are not one individual. We all have our different masks put on, and that the true aim of individuation, of becoming better or enlightenment is to meld all the masks together and just become a single pure individual. That was my previous conception. And
Very Jungian.
yeah, very Jungian, as you can probably sense. And that was my previous conception and kind of life goal, to be my pure self and meld together all the masks, both pointed internally and externally.
Are you saying melt?
Meld.
Yes,
Merge them all together into one, and then merge the mask itself into me. But now my conception is more like a boat. I'm on a boat in the middle of an ocean, and there's a lot of islands. And through my life, I land on these islands. I stay there. I meet people. Maybe they also have boats, but I have my own boat that I'm traveling through this ocean of environments, people, other boats, other stories, relations, situations. But in the end, I am on this boat and there's no one else there. I may have time where I'm staying like 20 years on an island with some people, but I am on this boat alone. My life is...
almost a nomadic.
It is kind of
social view.
nomadic. It is that I'm not a static individual. I am... An individual itself is not static.
So what you're saying is that one day you're just going to up and leave us.
That's not what I'm saying, but I wouldn't find it unnatural that in
'Cause
20 years there's a possibility that we have all drifted apart naturally. Although I hope not.
I almost
But,
thought you were going to say something like you stay on an island and then over like a certain amount of time you might develop like a small colony or some kind of like some kind of connection before you maybe sail next, or just that you had like this kind of island group instead and you just sail between them. Not that you sail away, that was kind of surprising. So you kind of have in your view that you have your friends, but I'm gonna leave eventually.
No, not that I won't ever return to the islands, but just that that's not a secured thing. It's not destined that I will stay with these people together. There's nothing I can do about the potential in the future of me changing and drifting apart. I've already experienced this. A lot of friends that I usually talk to a lot, I don't talk to together as much. Basically, I'm drifting away from one island, moving on to the next. I have multiple islands I visit, but in the end, I am only the boat. I'm only the journey. I am not the islands. I'm not the situation. I won't lie to myself and think that I'm forever static and I am saved in the freedom of this one island. No, I'm not. I am on a journey. I am the journey in a way of my own life. Obviously, everyone else has their own journeys and lives, but in the end, I can't really focus on that. I am on my own journey. I am changing, dynamic.
You know, the interesting thing is that if I were to like translate what I think to that view, it would be the other way around. I'd be the island. I'd be there and people would come and go. Because I find it kind of, because it's usually not you as a person that make people drift apart. It's not you parting ways. It's drifting. And that doesn't necessarily mean you even lose connection. So I think like the boat analogy is kind of like absolute, a bit too absolute in that sense.
But a boat is a mode of transportation. It's not a destiny. It's a transportation device. So even though I'm traveling all the way out on the Atlantic Ocean, that doesn't mean I can't go back to the Pacific.
I guess, but to me, it just sounds like you kind of know that you are going to leave. You're going to sail away. I don't know, this would need like a lot of discussion because this is something that kind of makes you stop and think. So it's not usually like the best discussing topic for a podcast.
I'm sorry, that's why I'm very quiet right now.
Yeah.
I might have come up with a way that I used to think about the world. And the way I would categorize it, and this was basically before I met my girlfriend. I think that's what changed how I look at it.
No, but actually you say that a lot.
Yes.
It's a good sentence. Come on.
Yeah. It's a good way of
it's
communicating how you feel.
No, it's just like ever since the people said some of us said like a lot, or all of us said. Yeah. So like.
But I think the way I would categorize the way I looked at the world was, if you can imagine a very big jigsaw puzzle, right? But the pieces are changing. Either the edges are changing or the pieces themselves, the picture on them, or the part of the picture are changing, or is changing. If you would imagine a pretty big jigsaw puzzle with a lot of pieces, but I try to make them fit a complete picture. And there's all these pieces on the side, and the pieces change, and sometimes they don't fit, and sometimes they stop fitting, and they just pop out, so I have to find a new piece to put it back in. Or maybe I just leave it, because it's fine. It doesn't have to be complete, not yet. But I think that would be the analogy for either people or situations in life, because the picture is never done. It's always changing. And sometimes the pieces will pop out, but I don't decide when they pop out. I don't decide when the pieces change. And the changing maybe means that it still fits, but it's not the same. Or maybe it's part of a different picture, but it fits in mine. I think that would maybe be how I would describe how I looked at the world before I met my girlfriend. I need to think about the analogy to use that I think of now. I have thought of a start of one, but I don't want to start talking about it right now because I need to think this through.
You don't want to start like revealing it before you've thought about it. So
yes, because it's going to be a half-baked idea that's going to mess up a lot of
you need to let
places.
the idea fester a little bit.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind that. Although that kind of goes in line with what I explained, that this ever dynamic thing, I don't really mind that. The way I explain it now would be different from how I would explain it in a week. And probably in 2 months, it would be completely different.
You remember how we talked a lot about people putting titles on things and like labels?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the impression I'm getting, because I think these kind of things are kind of like unhealthy to put labels on, because what can end up happening is that you always have this in the back of your mind. So you're going to start thinking about, oh, but this person's going to drift away, or this and this is going to happen. You have a more conclusive view, as if you have like a bit of like a linear view of like history almost, or your own relationships. You're going to meet someone, it's going to be all right, something bad's going to happen, and...
Honestly, though, if we look at it this way, my explanation would probably even be more cyclical. In that I travel to these islands, I meet stuff, and then eventually, potentially, not always, I leave. I go past. I continue beyond my situations, and that could be defined as a cyclical view of it.
I think the only thing that's confusing my brain is that in my head, you wouldn't always be on the same island. Because you have different like social groups and like friends that have like kind of separate roles in your life.
Yeah,
that's kind of why I'm reasoning with you, trying to reason with you, because to me that just doesn't add up. And yeah, that's why I'm arguing, because in my head something's not adding up, but I have to try and find out what's not adding up. That's why I'm asking questions.
The boat, if we consider where it came from, this idea of the world being a stage, everyone performs on it, and there's always an audience judging, and we all have masks. Then the boat it has become the vehicle of the mask. It's the vehicle of the mask. As I go from island to island, that boat, you could say, is representative of the change. Maybe the short term, if I just, go from being with the family to friends, but maybe also in the long term, from like today and 20 years.
Would you draw a parallel between your boat analogy and mine, my jigsaw analogy of the ever-changing jigsaw?
Possibly,
Islands
yeah.
are popping out.
Because the boat is kind of the only permanent thing, because it's the journey itself. The journey is permanent. The idea of a picture being there is permanent, but the picture itself is ever-changing.
Yeah.
No, you go.
That was the idea, and I was also... I probably didn't make this really clear, but I was also imagining the figure, that being me, constantly sitting there, observing the jigsaw puzzle and changing it based on how the jigsaw changes. I think that probably is the analogy for the ever-changing game that you need to always adapt to. And if you wanted to draw an analogy for how a catastrophe would look on that, would probably be something of all the pieces changing in very, very unpredictable ways, and needing to replace everything or almost everything, and then the new picture that materializes isn't reminiscent of the one that was before.
That's very Petersonian.
Do you mean
was that conscious? That
No.
This was you basically explain Peterson's view of the descent into chaos, recreation.
I didn't actually mean that.
Because when you think
that was
about
not
it,
conscious.
you have the present,
kind of,
the
yes.
journey, and the future, descent into chaos. Everything changes, something so much that you can't comprehend it, too much potential. And then you have to start all over again and get back.
What was I going to say? I was going to ask you if like what you were... are you explaining that you observe all the pieces and try to make sense of it? Or do you mean that every piece is something in your life and you're trying to put it in its place? I'm kind of not understanding exactly, because you said observe.
I'm not just observing. In the analogy, I'm the one sitting, playing, or doing the jigsaw puzzle.
No, God damn.
It's fine. A jigsaw puzzle doesn't solve itself.
Mm-hmm.
But in the analogy, it would undo itself. But there was nothing to solve it.
You're a maintainer.
Yes, it would be the one that maintains the jigsaw puzzle.
Okay, in that sense, all right.
And the puzzle pieces can be whatever you want them to be.
Almost like a bit of
to fit the analogy,
it
could be people,
like.
It could be situations, it could be places.
Why the
feelings.
jigsaw? Because with me, I know why the ocean and the boat is a sort of central thing, because I've always been fascinated by the ocean and the moon, which tightly knit together. So it's only natural that these become the basis of how I would explain my mental escape. How Why the jigsaw?
I don't know. It might be because the jigsaw puzzle combines to usually shows a full picture, and because it's very difficult usually and takes a lot of time to complete. Usually, when at least I do jigsaws, when you have a few pieces left, or even when you start, you have to look through almost every single piece and you find, oh, these few fit together and these few fit together, and you try to form the outside first, or you just put the pieces that look like they fit together. And it's kind of just the expansion on that is you always want to have it finished. You want to see the full picture.
But can you ever see the full picture?
That's the analogy. You can't really see the full picture because it's ever changing. It's not done.
Yeah.
There's always a next step.
You had a question?
No, I was just, oh God. Yeah, I was like trying to like push in my comments because I keep forgetting because I think a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What was I going to say? You said something about like a cycling, like kind of view, like a cycling history kind of thing. That reminded me of what I said today about like how a new step or like a new person or a new step towards something is not a new story or like a new path. It's a continuation of the path. That's what it sounded like. That's what I was going to say. And yeah, what else do we have to say? Because I think we've almost exhausted the topic.
Yeah, next time I'll try to have it.
Oh, that's perfect timing.
I think I'll try to have my answer ready to your question of how I view, or the analogy I would put to my life today.
Okay.
I think I'll try that.
I don't think it should be the next episode because we have a guest, but maybe after that.
Maybe I'll try and have it finished.
Although
Okay.
if it comes up naturally in the conversation with the guest, obviously, but if not,
Note it down because I think we're gonna strive for having like a bit more structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta say
This was pretty good.
This episode we had, I keep pressing the wrong buttons. This episode we had a relatively nice structure. The last topic got a bit more personal than I expected, but all in all, I think that was a bit better with that.
I really like this episode.
yeah. Me too.
God damn it! You know,
Well, I hope. I'm glad that has only happened towards the end.
Yeah.
I don't really care about them.
We had a few
Seeing
problems
that.
at the start. We thought we fixed it, but it seems like the cable's a little bit
I think
loose.
it's a bad cable.
Yeah.
We.
It's not my cable.
It's your
I just bought the
camera.
camera.
Your camera.
In conclusion, I think it was a really good episode.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best one we've done so far.
Yeah.
Although I kind of like that it went a bit personal, but we stayed anonymous in a way, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to like learn about others because some of us are more closed off than others.
Don't look at me.
Well, it's only natural that it looks
Yeah.
at you. He's right across from you.
No, okay, it's like some people's. It's like some people are easier to read and like understand, and some people aren't. But what the hell was I gonna say? You keep being distracted by us just having fun.
But that's a good thing, though. You know that is
That's a
fundamentally a
good
good thing. So you
What
can't
did I
complain
say?
about that
Oh,
I am quite a private person.
yeah, exactly.
by choice.
I don't know.
If-
Next episode.
Yeah, we can't start a new topic now.
Yeah. We can talk about that next time, actually, because it might fit with a person.
Actually, that might fit really well.
Yeah.
We'll talk to him not in
We will
school.
have some. I told you guys to not really reveal things because now we don't have a big surprise. But no, that next episode, there's a reason we have changed. Wow, you keep pushing the microphone away. We are making preparations to have another person, which is why I got a big microphone upgrade this episode. So stay tuned for that, I guess. Next episode, we're going to try to, I guess, hone in on some...
Honestly, we should just
need-
let the guests steer it.
Yes.
We want a conversation that the guest... We can get something out of the guest.
But to be fair,
Yeah.
the
We
guest
can
is our
have-
friend.
We
Yeah.
can
So
have
it's easy.
conversations like at any time, us three, but now we have a new person that has different views. So the interesting thing is hearing those views.
I'm pretty sure it's
in
going to be easy to
contrast to us.
get get the views out of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be very easy to
That's
get
gonna be
views.
really
Yeah.
easy.
I think the people that know us that watch this already know who it is, most likely.
Yeah.
Probably.
They definitely
It's
know
the
who this is.
monarchist.
No,
The monarchist,
we shouldn't
yeah.
reveal that.
It's fine.
Should
Cut
we
it out.
bleep that?
No, I'm not gonna. You're
No.
giving me more work. I don't care.
I'm sorry, man.
I think you
Well,
know
if they watch to the end, they deserve to know.
Okay,
if,
yeah.
You know,
A little
if they watch
teaser.
at the end, they get that little. That it's someone we've talked about before.
Yeah, actually.
So this time, you guys are gonna get
Okay.
to actually see the person. We've
But
talked
now
about.
we should probably end it before we
Yeah, because
blabber
you
on.
guys
Yes.
are not. You see, okay,
I'm done.
okay. Let's do a little exercise. We are done now, and then you push the microphone slowly away from you.
We are done now.
We are done. Okay.
Kommer du fram med?